We all know that kicking our hard drives to the curb and replacing them with SSDs is one of the biggest upgrades you can make to any system. It's like taking a breath of fresh air after spending 30 minutes in one of those dingy, gross airport smoking sections. Yeah, it's that good. Faster boot up times, a snappier user interface, faster file transfers, and most importantly for us gamers, faster load times, all courtesy of our speedy SSD buddies. But just how fast is fast enough? Is there some point of diminishing returns when it comes to SSDs, especially when it comes to gaming? Well, in this video we're going to try to answer that question, while we also take a look at Crucial's ever-popular P5 NVMe SSD. And if you want to grab a P5 or any other parts featured in this video, go ahead and do it via my Amazon affiliate links in the description down below. It costs you nothing, but helps me make more videos like this. Or if you're in South Africa, treat yourself to some dope deals and the absolute best customer service in the game by buying all of your stuff at Wootware. Now, in this video, I'll be tossing in one of my 7200 RPM drives, a standard SATA SSD, the Crucial P5, and a PCIe 4.0 NVMe drive into the benchmark Coliseum to see how they all stack up in various applications. But first, let's get to know the P5 a little bit more, shall we? The P5 is a PCIe Gen 3 NVMe, so not quite as speedy as the new Gen 4 drives that everyone's drooling over right now, but with quoted sequential read and write speeds of 3400 and 3000 megabytes per second respectively, the boy ain't no slouch either. The P5 range of SSDs are all of the M.2 2280 variety, meaning the drives are 22mm wide and 80mm long, and they come in capacities ranging from 250GB all the way up to 2TB. The P5s also ship with Crucial's beefy new proprietary 3rd gen 6-core controllers. And price-wise, the 500GB P5 we're working with here has been jumping around recently on Amazon, first being on sale for $68, but then bumping up to $75, or 1,300 Rand at Wootware. A bump that's hopefully not due to the whole chia farming thing. But regardless, at any of those prices, the P5 is actually decently competitive, with the majority of its similarly spec'd drives coming in at around the same price point. Helping to sweeten the deal, the P5 series is covered by a 5-year limited warranty, supports full drive hardware-based encryption, and comes with a host of other security and reliability-focused features. I'm not really qualified to dig into all of the hardware and advanced features built into this thing, so I'm not gonna. But what I am qualified to say is that the P5 is a sexy boy. It's not every day that I get to work with a piece of tech that features an all-black PCB, and that's a damn shame. The black PCB looks ultra slick and makes it easy to fit into pretty much any theme build, and thankfully the sticker design shares the same clean, uninterrupted look, although as with most of these things, some of the components do pop through the sticker a little bit. Unfortunately, the drive doesn't ship with its own heatsink as some more expensive drives do, and as we'll see a little later during the benchmarks, you're probably going to need one. But I like to think that if you're buying a drive like this, you'll be pairing it with a motherboard that ships with its own M.2 heatsinks. Software-wise, the P5 pairs great with the Crucial Storage Executive tool, which you can use to easily upgrade the drive's firmware, monitor temps and other stats, clone your drive, and mess around with security settings. It also lets you enable momentum cache, which essentially speeds the drive up even more in certain scenarios by utilizing some of your spare RAM. And now that we know a little more about the P5, let's go ahead and see what this thing can actually do. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I'll be comparing the P5's performance to a standard HDD, a SATA SSD, and a PCIe Gen 4 NVMe drive to cover almost all the bases. And that should give us a pretty good idea of how everything stacks up. And to kick things off, we'll start with good old Crystal Diskmark, looking at sequential and random read and write speeds for all the drives. And man, do I love seeing scaling like this. With our sequential read and writes, our mechanical drive comes in at the slow end, followed by our SATA SSD with about double the speed, then the P5 coming in like a monster with about 500% speed increase, and our PCIe 4.0 drive sitting comfortably at the top. For our random workload tests, something that's probably a little more representative of how humans actually use their systems, we see a somewhat similar scaling, but not nearly as dramatic or exciting. The most interesting part being the write speed of the P5, which weirdly just managed to beat the PCIe 4.0 drive. While we're on the topic, even though I didn't run a full suite of tests, with the help of the momentum cache feature, the P5 actually about doubled its performance numbers when it comes to sequential tests, which is really cool to see. Obviously, with bigger file sizes and longer tests, the cache would be filled up pretty quickly and speeds would slow down dramatically. But for burstier workloads, it's dope. But as fun as it is to look at big numbers, we should probably move on to benchmarks that matter a heck of a lot more to real workloads that we actually care about. And first up, a classic boot to Windows. And we're only really looking at the P5 and PCIe 4.0 drive because I'm way too lazy to install Windows on all of my drives. And dang, both of these drives got to the desktop fast. From initial boot, the P5 took about 16 seconds to load up the OS, while the PCIe 4.0 drive came out on top with a little over 14 seconds. Speedy stuff. Next up, we'll take a look at two areas where the jump from a hard drive to an SSD is probably the most meaningful to us gamers. Those being launch and load times, and we'll be taking a look at Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Horizon Zero Dawn. In Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the time between launching the game and actually getting into the menu definitely saw a pretty decent decrease as we moved to even our slowest SSD, but not nearly as much as I was expecting. The time it took to load into the game from a save, however, was much more like I was expecting. While it took the hard drive about 39 seconds to launch into the game, our SATA SSD cut that time down to about 15 seconds, making the hard drive about 60% slower than even our slowest SSD. As for the P5 and the PCIe 4.0 drive, well, the results are a little underwhelming, with both only being about a second or two faster, whether loading into the game or loading up a save. And we see a pretty similar story unfold in Horizon Zero Dawn. Launching the game from an HDD was only a little bit slower than launching from any of the SSDs, but when it came to loading into the world, the HDD completely shit the bed, again loading at around 61% slower than our SATA SSD. Horizon does show us a little more separation between our three SSDs and shows numbers more in line with what we'd expect, that being the SATA at the slowest end of the scale, the P5 landing somewhere in the middle, and the 4.0 drive coming out on top. These tests show what I think a lot of us already knew, that it doesn't matter too much what SSD you're rocking, unless it's one of those crappy ones with no DRAM, just that you're rocking one at all. At least when it comes to gaming. When it comes to everything else though, there's when it comes to non-gaming applications like photo editing, file transfers, super fast downloads, zipping and unzipping files, and the majority of other stuff you do with your system, a faster SSD can be a lifesaver. And while PCIe 4.0 is awesome, I still think PCIe 3.0 is where it's at. And with the new consoles finally taking high-speed SSDs and running with them, we're definitely going to see games built to take advantage of that speed more and more moving forward. Which brings us back to the P5. While the P5 is priced well, looks great, and performs as advertised, it does unfortunately suffer from one big flaw. It gets a little too toasty for my liking. Without a dedicated heatsink to cool it down, the drive sat at around 54 degrees at idle, and jumped all the way up to 75 degrees while under heavy load, like during huge file transfers. While those temps aren't horrible by any means, they do make it one of the harder drives I've actually used. Which is why I said earlier that if you're buying a drive like this, I hope you're planning to pair it with a board that comes with its own dedicated M.2 heatsinks. With the heatsinks that come with my MSI X570 Gaming Pro Carbon, the drive's max temp fell to 67 degrees, which is significantly more manageable. Crucial hasn't been in the NVMe game all that long, and as their first real foray into it, I think they did a pretty fantastic job with the P5. And everyone watching this did a great job too, making it this far into the video. If you want to grab anything I mentioned in this video, remember to do it via my Amazon affiliate links in the description down below. Or make sure you're buying everything at Wootware if you're a fellow South African. Big thanks to Crucial for sending the P5 over for me to check out, and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers!